Michelle, maybe.
We're
Oh,
missing what?
that maybe we just needed you to join for the echo
So-
to stop.
Sorry, guys. I'm glad y'all all worked out. Hi, friends. How are y'all?
Doing?
Good. Just, living the dream.
Look at you. Look, like, what is that? Is that like a light for a diploma or something behind you?
It's for my art.
It's
Avi,
is that art behind you, or are you just highlighting like a
that is my
recognition?
most expensive piece of art, my
Oh,
bar
is it really
license.
art?
Hi, everybody. I know that there's a few of you on the line. Thank you for making it to the A Day in the Life of series. My name is Grisel Sejo. I'm currently the Vice President of Programming for HNBA. On the panel are my colleagues and my friends, frankly. They're basically my friends, as some of you might have already heard. But I'm going to turn it over to Valerie. I will jump off for a little bit and you'll see me in a little bit. Valerie, over to you.
Thanks, Grisel. I work with Grisel on the Su Futuro programming, and today we have Daniel Gomez Sanchez from Littler, Michelle Pereno Taylor from Ackerman, and Danielle Gordet from Ackerman is going to be facilitating our discussion today. Danielle, go ahead.
Great. Thank you for having us. And just as a preliminary thing, since I know Michelle and Daniel have known each other for a long time, they each are probably best at giving a little bio about themselves for the audience. So Daniel, if you could go first and let us know your background and how you ended up at Littler.
Oh my gosh, that's a long question. I mean, that means a long answer. I mean, so I'll give you the short bio, so this way we can launch into the questions.
Great.
I've been an attorney, admitted to the bar since 2009 in New York. I have worked in government, I've worked in private practice, and I've been at Littler since 2016. And I've been a partner at Littler now for almost 4 years, I think, or close to five. I forget which one it is right now. We had a pandemic, so time is a mess for me right now. And I practice, as I'm sure you know from what Littler Mendelsohn is. I practice exclusively labor and employment law, and I love what I do. And I'm sure some of the questions that you ask us, Danielle, are going to kind of further elucidate kind of why I love what I do and love the practice of law.
Thank you so much. And Michelle, if you could please let us know a little bit about yourself.
Sure, absolutely. And so I thought you were going to have us introduce each other because that would have been really
Oh, that would have been great.
That would have been a good idea.
So my name is Michelle Pereno Taylor. It's great to be here today and really great to have Danny help us facilitate this conversation. I am a partner at Ackerman. I've been practicing law now for well over 2 decades. It's been about 21 years. My entire career has been focused on management side labor and employment. I was at a boutique for a few years and then had the great pleasure of working at Littler for 15 plus years. I was a managing partner there at their San Diego office and worked with great folks like Daniel, who I still say we're part of still the same firm, just like in my head is how I practice. And that's kind of part of, I think today's discussion will be how this is a long game and we all end up working together and either directly at firms or, and maybe when we leave firms indirectly. My practice, it's a national practice. I practice all over the country with a focus on California and Texas. And if you know anything about labor and employment law, those are the bookends of labor and employment. And so it gives me a good perspective in terms of what my clients need all over the country. I litigate and I do advice and counsel and I do investigation. So I do everything I call it the you can't make this stuff up line of work. So I'm happy to be here and happy to discuss the day in the life of a partner. So thank you very much.
And that's a good introduction. And I guess I should have also added I'm an associate at Ackerman. I'm a senior associate, and I find this particularly helpful to have this webinar as I'm someone that at the moment at least am considering one day hopefully being partner. And so before we get into the questions that we had thought of before, it'd be helpful if each of you could tell us what the day in the life of a partner is. Maybe, you know, well, it's already noon, so maybe what did you do so far today, and what could someone expect as a partner at either firm? And Michelle, if you could go first, please.
Yeah, sure. So the day in the life, it really is, it really can change day by day. Up until yesterday, I was preparing for trial in California, that was scheduled to go in 2 weeks. So that involved a whole lot of teamwork with folks all over the country, particularly some of us who are at national firms. Many of our teammates are all over the country. And so a lot of it involves coordinating across multiple time zones, active participation by members of our team, either from folks that are actually in the courthouse to our great paralegals who are, you know, getting our documents ready, trial documents ready, all of that piece of it. Meanwhile, while dealing with, you know, a lot of, hey, do you have a second to talk, from, you know, our clients, our direct clients, because, you know, as you move through partnership, that really is what you are. You're a business partner, you're a relationship person for folks who have the things that come up. And so a lot of, candidly, what I do is just making sure that I'm available to my clients when they need me, and particularly when they need an answer really quickly. I also, you know, I'm also very in charge of making sure that our bills go out and make sure that we're getting, you know, paid for the great work that we're doing. And then finally, I'm also really active in recruiting. I'm, you know, growing my team. And so part of that is making sure I'm meeting with those that may be part of the team. And so I've actually been involved in interviewing over the last week. So though that's just a little bit of, you know, a flavor of what a day in a partner's life can look like. There was also a track meet with, I have 2 kids, one's 14, one's 10, and one had district track meet. So there's throwing that in there as well. So it can be a whole lot.
Great. Thank you. That was really helpful to hear. And Daniel, could you let us know as well?
Well, so you asked for a day. I'll give you my past 2 days and a little bit of today. So I was in a deposition, you know, for the past 2 days. And as you heard Michelle explain, you know, a lot of our job that what we do, we're problem solvers, but we're also facilitators and coordinators as partners. And so when a client needs us, you know, they're asking for our help, they're asking for assistance, we're the main point of contact. We've got to be able to help. So being in the deposition for the past 2 days, of course, was a little bit difficult. But when a client request comes in, during those breaks, for example, I was facilitating and coordinating, making sure that those client questions got answered, or they were placed in touch with, or the client was placed in touch with someone who could answer the question for them while I was on break. And being the main point of contact for certain clients, it obviously can be somewhat demanding, because depending on how large or how small the client is, you may be tasked with ensuring that client questions get answered from as far away as like Germany to California to Texas to Chicago. And even today, just asking, you know, random questions. Can you please put me in touch with someone with respect to this particular paid family leave law in this particular state? And so we serve so being a partner, you know, you're serving as the problem solver, but you're the chief problem solver. You are the chief coordinator. You are the chief facilitator with respect to the clients that you are the main point of contact with. And in some respects, you're always on. And it's fun. It's exhilarating, because you are truly trying to solve a client's problems. But of course, then you have the family aspect of it all. And I spent my Monday night on a couch sleeping, you know, while trying to prepare for the deposition, the second day of the deposition next day, because my daughter had a stomach bug and couldn't sleep in her bed. And so she had to sleep in my wife and I's bed. And of course, there was no spot for me. So when I asked my wife, I'm like, oh, so where do I sleep? She goes, I guess the couch. And of course, I had to be on and ready to go for Tuesday for the second part of the deposition. But I mean, that's like 2 days in the life, and it's fun, it's exciting, and life throws you curveballs. And you know, your personal life intersects with your professional life in so many ways. And as partners, not only are we having to be responsive to our clients' needs, but also to our family's needs. And how do we make sure that both needs are being met and being the best parents and partners that we possibly can be?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. And kind of along those lines, we wanted to know what brought you both into the legal field, how you knew you wanted to be an attorney, and is that in line with what you're doing today? So, Daniel, do you want to go first?
So I guess the question really is like, why did I decide to become a lawyer? Why did I choose the law? I mean, it's such a long story. I'll give you the brief answer. Well, as brief as I can make it. Um, in high school, I remember history and loving history and everything having to do with political history and specifically American political history. And all I wanted to do was learn about it because our nation was built on the law, right? We had a constitution that developed. We had various laws that came into play. It was phenomenal just how the country was formed on the notion of the rule of law. And so just deeply, deeply fascinated by it. And then, of course, you had all these crime TV shows on TV, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. This is what lawyers do on a day-to-day basis. I want to be a lawyer. So I tried to marry my love of history with the drama. So when people ask me, why I became a lawyer, I say, well, I came for the drama because it's true. There's a certain level of drama in what we do. And so growing up, so leaving high school and going into college, and my immediate goal was to become a prosecutor. Like I loved the history. We're a nation built on laws. I'm going to prosecute people. I got to law school, and then my first summer of law school, I interned at the district attorney's office, and I hated every day of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, my career is over. I can't be a prosecutor. What am I going to do? Like I geared my entire life to it. But I never lost sight of the fact that, I still love the idea that our nation was built on this area of laws. And I'm like, how do I find the passion, or continue this passion for the law, this passion for the history, and how do I apply it? I was fortunate enough to apply for a job for my second summer with the New York City Law Department, and ended up loving life in government. And after my 2L year, I ended up getting an offer to return to the law department, but not just any offer. It was an offer to return to the Labor and Employment Division. And that is how I ended up falling in love with the practice of labor and employment law. So why the law? There's the passion. Why do I stay? I stay for the drama. And then labor and employment has enough drama to fill 10 lifetimes. Like as I mentioned before, you're problem solving, you're coming up with solutions, you're a solutions-based partner to your clients. But every case, every matter, every question has its own unique set of facts that you can just say, I am never going to encounter this again, or this is the first time I've encountered this, or this might be similar to another case I handled or another question I handled, but somehow it's yet completely different and yet completely exciting and exhilarating. So why the law? I came for the drama, but it's always changing.
Thank you so much. And Michelle, do you also feel that same passion and excitement and that drama in the work you do?
I do. I think I mentioned this when I opened. I call it the "you can't make this up, you can't make this stuff up" line of work. And and my practice has evolved in terms of what I do. I certainly do a lot of workplace related. I deal with a lot of workplace related issues, but to Daniel's point, in terms of being a problem solver, I'm looking at like what does my client need in this space? Like, does it need someone to help them with a compliance issue that may have a government piece to it, or do they need help in like the area of privacy or technology now, right? In terms of what I do. In terms of why the law, I knew I was gonna, do law school and go to law school, or wanted to be a lawyer my junior year in high school. My government class, I think it sounds like this is why Daniel and I are such good friends, because like we have a lot of overlap. I'm a first generation attorney in my family, first generation college graduate here in the U.S. We moved to the U.S. from Ecuador when I was 3 years old. And I was also the oldest. And so I was, my favorite line growing up, you ask any of my uncles or my aunts, it's, what was Michelle's favorite line? It's not fair, right? And so that very quickly, transitioned to, again, as Daniel put, the love of government and just the history. I knew I wanted to be involved somehow in either government or the law, and so I went to law school. I went to undergrad and pursued a political science and psychology degree. And then while I was in while I was in undergrad, I worked as a legislative assistant for a state rep. And that really gave me an incredible vantage point on how laws became laws at the state level. And so that solidified my want to actually go and become a lawyer. I didn't know what a big firm was, candidly, when I went to law school, or what my legal trajectory, legal profession would look like. Sometimes I'll dust off my personal statement, and I recommend that you all do that sometimes. Take a look at what drove you to apply to law school, and just looked at what I wanted to focus in to. And I think in my personal statement, it was about justice and equality and fairness. And so I take that into my practice, and took that into my practice as a labor and employment attorney, in terms of the work that I do, and helping clients reach that in their work. And so now, after being a litigator and doing that trial work for a number of years in the area of employment law, naturally you start becoming more of a problem solver before it gets to the courtroom, or if it ever is going to get to the courtroom, and making sure clients are building systems that do bring equity into the workplace. And so that's why I am in the law, and why I continue to be in the law. And candidly, if I didn't love it, I think it is a very demanding profession. Daniel's description of prepping with a sick child when you're managing family obligations and all the things, it is a profession that you definitely want to be committed to and love to continue to do.
Thank you. And do you still feel that same love as a partner? And I guess, when did you know you wanted to become a partner?
Yeah, I mean, most days, not all the days. Not all the days, because when I've got a ton of administrative things that I need to do, and I also actively practice law. Sometimes those things can conflict. I absolutely love it, and I really think I would not be doing it if I didn't love it. When did I know I wanted to become a partner? I think I knew maybe a little later than other folks did. I it was certainly after I had my first child. I looked at, my life as, obviously my priority was family. And when I had my first child, I took it as, we're going to just see where this journey goes. If being at Big Law makes sense, it makes sense. If it doesn't, then we'll shift. And it did. It made sense. It worked fine. It wasn't like there weren't hard days, but I loved what I was doing. And then I realized, when I was getting up for a partner, and there's a whole process and things you have to look at, it really makes you look at, like, do I really want this? And I realized I really did. It was a natural transition. I was already problem solving and kind of acting like front of line with clients. And so that, to me, was what drove me to really wanting to do that. And candidly, that's so much of what I get to do now. So it has been, a great transition point. And candidly, you kind of make it what you want it to be, is how I see it, or how I have done it. And I have found success in it. It's just kind of tailoring it around what is important to me, as a business partner with clients, but also in terms of just personally what my passions are. So all of those things certainly have continued to drive me in this direction. One of my former partners, who also a former partner, Daniel, once described being a partner at a law firm as like the ultimate free agent. And that really stuck with me, because it's kind of true. Like I get to make what I want out of my profession, right? I get to service clients where they need, and bring value to them and have success in what I do. And so I remember when that partner described that, I thought, gosh, yeah, they're right. And then the other piece of partnership that I want to touch upon that I love, and I know Daniel does very well and is very good at, is the community that it creates and the mentorship. I mean, we are a profession of a apprenticeship profession, right? We learn from those that come in before us. And so I get huge value and just joy from seeing that associate argue that first motion or take that depot, and I'll sit in on it and doing it as a safety net, right? I get huge value on being that for someone, particularly because I had people that did that for me. And so that to me is an important part of where I am professionally as well.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. And Daniel, when did you know that you wanted to become a partner, and do you also love it?
So the answer, first of all, the answer to your last question is yes, I do love it. Oh, Danielle, we lost you video wise. There you go. The answer is yes, I do love it, but I echo so much of what Michelle has said, and I mean it just goes to show you, like, similar people think similar things, and the reality is like I look at being a partner as like being able to help those that are coming up behind us, right, and try to lift them up as well, because people did that for me, right, and so we have to feel fulfilled, right, and in terms of what Michelle was saying, as we make partnership what we want to make it, it's true. I look at partnership as, how do I give back to other people who want to be in a similar position? And I'll touch upon that in a little bit, because one of the things I do want to talk about is why did I want to become partner? And I don't know when it hit me, but and I can't give you a specific date, but at some point something clicked, and I said, you know what, I want to be in the room. As a partner, you get to be a business owner. You are part of the business. You own, shares, and you own equity in this business, and so you are invested in its growth. And I wanted to be in that room, because if I was going to commit myself to a career, and and to be part of a career, and then commit myself specifically to this firm, to Littler, right? I wanted to be in that room. And watching the firm grow from the inside is actually rewarding in of itself, because you're one of several hundred partners, but you're still fully vested in the growth of the firm. And it's not just monetary growth, right? It's investment in people. It's the growth of the people, your associates, right, who are eventually going to, become partner. Like that investment, and this is where I'm going to circle back, is that investment is the fulfilling part of being a partner and making partnership what you want to make. And that is rewarding for me. I know it's rewarding for Michelle, and it's rewarding probably for almost any partner you speak to, because law firms are very much kind of like an apprenticeship type of model. We are always teaching people to do what we do, and we've learned from others, and we're teaching people who are coming up behind us. And the great part about what we do is that we never stop learning, whether it's learning the law, whether it's learning empathy, whether it's learning how to interact with others, whether it's learning how to help other people grow. It is phenomenal and fabulous. So watching the firm grow can mean so many things to so many different people, but you got to find how you're gonna view, if you want to be partner, how you're gonna view fulfillment through your eyes. What is fulfillment for you from the inside? And I love being on the inside. It is phenomenal, because I have input in the growth of our people, and that makes it for me like it's just fulfilling, entirely fulfilling.
Great. Thank you both. And I guess going back to Michelle now, if you could tell us associates, so I think I'm assuming most of the people listening today are associates, any advice for how to become partner? Because I mean, many of us may want to be partner, but unfortunately it's not as easy as just wanting to be partner. So any advice that can help people get to partner?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I take the advice that I wish I had when I was up for partner. Know the business you're in. Know the levers that drive success for owners in the business, as Daniel described, what that looks like in your organization. And it's never too early to learn it, right? You have metrics that your law firm sets. A lot of it is usually just a minimum billable hour, certain things that are being measured for you, core competencies that are going to be with you as they develop. But you're going to want to see beyond just what it is for associates. I would make sure you understand what success looks like for partners at the organization that you're at, because there's not a one size fits all with partnership. Despite what everyone thinks, big law, regional firm, small firm, there is not a one size fits all, and every firm has a different model and a different measure of success. And so for me, it took me a little bit to really understand how the levers work. Again, I was first in my family to practice at a law firm. And so I was learning about, realization and profitability and war and origination, all of these words. Like, those are things you want to understand even before you're in the seat. And so you can start learning them earlier and earlier. And candidly, we have access to that information now so much easier at our respective firms than we perhaps did when I was up for partner. We have the dashboards and we have all the things that I think help us understand what those numbers mean. Take the time to play with the dashboard. Take the time to look at your budget versus your actual, because those are the things that are going to be you want to be mindful of when you become a partner, when you become a business owner, because as with any business, you want to understand how is financial success part of what I do. And so to me, that would be a real key takeaway. The other piece would be understanding what your niche is, right? For some of us, getting clients or having clients, having those relationships is very organic. For others, it's through the really great work that you do as a trial lawyer or as a specialist. Kind of figure out what that is. And there's some places where specialization makes really great sense. But for others, kind of having an understanding of multiple things is what brings you, joy and passion and success as a practitioner. And so I think, to Daniel's point earlier, is understanding what success looks like for you, not necessarily what your organization is saying you need to fit into this mold. Again, ultimately, depending on, the size of your firm and all of that, you do want to understand what the business model looks like, so that, yes, it makes sense for me to be at this organization, or does it make sense for me to become a partner at another location where I may have more of an alignment to what success looks like there. So those would be kind of some of my key takeaways. Early on, ask for the metrics of what it takes to become partner. I learned about it as when I was up for partner. And so it's really good to have that understanding well in advance of actually being at that point, because candidly, at that point is looking 2 years back at least. And so you understand the roadmap before you even get to that place, even if you're on the fence on whether or not you want to do it.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. And Daniel, could you give us associates some advice as well on becoming partner? You're still muted.
So I echo everything that Michelle has said, and I'll add a few other tidbits, which are, ask questions. Ask questions of anyone and everyone. Ask partners. Hey, what's it like being a partner for you? What was your role? What was your roadmap? How did you get to where, what made you ask the same questions that were being asked today? Ask them at your firm. Ask those that have come before you, what what drove them to be a partner? What do they like about it? So this way you can figure out your own path, because that's truly what this is how do you fit within the broader firm structure as a partner? And there's various ways to get there, as Michelle says. You could be a subject matter expert. You could be just really good with talking to people. And, or, you could, as I like to call it in terms of business developing, which is one of the aspects of associate life, is when you start thinking about that, it's intentional accidents. And so that's how I view business development, because if you want to be a partner as an associate, you should also be thinking about business development, because it is the lifeline, of a law firm. And so when to start thinking about that, I don't think you necessarily need to be thinking about it all the time, but you should be thinking about it with intentionality. And what I mean by intentional accidents is to be able to put yourself into a situation where the potential for a relationship or to secure clients could manifest. And so my first client, I'll tell you, it was an intentional accident. I loved food. Well, actually, I still love food. So I love food. And I was in a local area in my neighborhood at the time where I was living in Brooklyn. And I really loved this one restaurant. And I just went and I sat at this restaurant every day, not every day, every Friday. And I had a beer and a book, and I loved the food. And I would talk to the servers and, get to know them, and oh my gosh, this food's amazing. And then out of nowhere, the owner comes up and starts talking to me. It's like, I see you here every Friday. I just wanted to introduce myself. Thank you for being such a loyal customer. What do you do for a living? Well, funny you ask. I said to the owner, and I told him I did employment law. And the owner said to me, "Oh, I've got like 10 questions for you." I was like, "Great. Here's my email address. Let me send you an engagement agreement. Let's sit down. We'll talk." And that was my first client. I wasn't looking for the client, but I was acting with intentionality, only in the sense that I love food and I love this restaurant. And I wasn't expecting a client out of it. It just happened. And that one client then started talking to other people on the same avenue, in the same blocks in Brooklyn. And next thing you know, I'm getting phone calls from all of these other local businesses. And in the saying goes, one person told two people told four people, etc. And they told two people. And it was an accident. It was pure luck. And so when you start as an associate, when you start thinking about your business, don't think of I'm going out to get the biggest fish in the sea. Find what look for what you're passionate about. If you're passionate about a particular industry, be intentional about that industry. If you love something about a particular type of cause, be intentional about that cause, because it's not necessarily about developing that business at that moment. It is about planting the seeds for what could theoretically come to you 10 years from now. It doesn't have to be now. It could be much later, because as Michelle and I both said at the start of this is a long career and it's a long game. And, I always joke with other people. I'm like, I probably have 21 more years left to retire. At least I hope. We'll see. But 21 more years is still more than half the time I've been practicing law. So it's a long, long career. And just taking those early steps can lead to fruition later in life. And so that's kind of the advice I have. Talk to people and focus on intentional accidents, because things will happen and they will manifest.
Great. Thank you so much. It's great advice from both of you. And it looks like we have some questions in our question poll, so I'll go to some of those. Let's see. It looks like we have a question that says, it's from an anonymous attendee. When did you first begin thinking about building your book of business as an associate? What are some things that you've done which you found success in, which you would recommend to an associate? And how has that changed now, if at all, as a partner? Would either of you like to jump into the question?
I think I kind of answered it on my last question. So I think Michelle, I mean, this one's all you.
Yeah, no, I love intentional accidents. That's great. And I think you start seeing them more and more, like as you're doing this more and more. Kids, kids' schools, kids, like just the soccer field or the track field. You just kind of you have um you're maybe there are just more opportunities, if you will, that you're kind of listening to. And to Daniel's point, right? Someone's asked him, what do you do? He's very quick to say to know, like, this is how I respond to that, right? And being able to kind of share what you do. In terms of my business development strategy, it's it really, I will tell you, HMBA, candidly, is a phenomenal network of colleagues and like professionals and friends, and just a great network for personal growth and fulfillment, and in terms of that, making sure you're lift while you climb, I think is the phrase. But also in terms of the long game of this career of folks that you may do like an HNBA conference with, and 5 years later they may be in house, or they may be part of your network, and they've gotten to know you and your practice. And so that's a really great way, I think, as an associate, to become involved. And you're not doing it with like, oh, I'm going to business develop, but it's just kind of coming out of, it's one of the great, amazing things I think that comes out of HNBA. And then also understanding, to Daniel's point of, it is a long game. And so where you're putting your time, if you don't love going to the bar events, but you're going to the bar events just for business development, like really think, is that what I want to be doing with my time? Certainly important. And so find the bar events that you enjoy and love. Again, a little shout out to HMBA. It's one of the best. But find something that you're finding personal self-fulfillment with, because candidly, I think it'll happen more organically if you do it that way. And then also just recognize that you're the people you're working with, not everyone is going to want to be a partner. And certainly many of those individuals will end up going to in-house or end up going to other firms. And so you're building that network now as an associate with people that you're working with. And then one final piece that candidly I didn't do or wasn't as engaged with until probably the last 5 years, alumni groups. Alumni groups are also one really great way to give back to your community, but also to have that network, right? That you went to law school with, you have this, community that you are part of. It's also just another one of those really great avenues and places to have in terms of a potential pipeline for business relationships, and also for business referrals, right? I get tons of requests for different things that I can't handle, my firm can't handle, there's a conflict, whatever. But I have a great network of folks that I can connect them with if I ever need to do that. So those are just a couple of tips I have.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. And it looks like we have another live question is, as a partner, what are some of the things that surprised you? What administrative obligations do you have that you didn't have as an associate? And Daniel, do you want to start off?
I guess the administrative obligations that I have, that without going too deep into them, is that there's a significant amount more email, and there's a significant amount more meetings, right? Sometimes there's meetings about meetings. And so that's the reality, right? Because you are an owner, a certain amount of your time, you're still fully expected to practice the law. But then you have to add on top of it the meetings and the additional onslaught of emails to deal with certain administrative things. And so, well, I can't get too specific about those administrative things. I think generally speaking, it's just more emails and more responsiveness because you are involved more so in the business of the firm. And so there might be questions about what direction we're going to take a particular committee in, what topics we need to discuss for a particular future speaking session, how to manage a particular client relationship. Those are all types of the things that as an associate, you don't necessarily do on a day-to-day basis. You might be asked for your opinion, but you don't necessarily do it on a day-to-day basis. And so it's not necessarily that it was surprising. It's more so the surprising aspect of it is having to be able to fit it into your work day along with all of your actual legal work that needs to get done and trying to remain efficient about it all. That is the most surprising aspect, I think, of it. But still fun. I mean, still fun.
Thank you so much. And Michelle, I know you touched on this a little bit at the beginning as well, but are there any other administrative items that you may have not mentioned at the beginning that you also have to handle?
I would say candidly the billing piece, and from when I was a first year lawyer, I grew up under a lawyer who the head of that firm carved out like 3 days just to look at bills, and it was a smaller firm, and certainly really appreciating that that's what your client's going to see and pay for the legal work you're doing. And so as a owner in that relationship, being very mindful of what is on those bills, ensuring that you're delegating appropriate administrative help. You cannot do it all, just to Daniel's point. And sometimes we try, and that for me has been so key, is ensuring that everyone understands their role in this. My LAA, who is amazing in today's administrative professional days, everyone, so please share a huge thank you to your LAA, because they are what help us make this go round, right? And so having those relationships on the administrative end has been such an important piece for my success at any firm that I'm at, because they're the ones who are making sure there aren't spelling errors, doing round one so that I can be efficient and do all the other things that I'm doing. And then I think the other piece is, I don't think I appreciated as an associate how much time is spent behind the scenes on associate advancement, on their mentoring. In fact, I remember my first partners meeting after evaluation period. I remember I was like, or maybe it was my second one. I was like, I would just like to apologize for all the times I thought y'all weren't thinking about us, because I clearly see y'all were thinking about us. So just know that there is a lot of that happening, and probably even less visibility to it now because of us being remote, right? And having that as part, especially the last couple of years, you're not seeing when the partners are meeting and doing all of that. So appreciating that is happening is something that I would say I didn't recognize as an associate, but I certainly do as a partner.
Great, thank you, Michelle. And I see that Griselle has joined us again, I believe. So hopefully you're able to stay for the end of the webinar. And I know that you were maybe going to tell us all about reasons we may not want to go and become a partner and what options there are after we heard all these
when you're a law firm refugee. That's what I am. So I wanted to kind of balance out Michelle and Daniel, who, in the interest of full disclosure, are friends. I love them. They're my outside counsel through HNBA. So make sure that if you want to be partner, keep your relationships. But I think it's important to sometimes say why wouldn't you want to. I was a little older when I went to the law firm, so I was 33 when I got out of law school. And there is, if your law firm hasn't taught you this, the cup, always have a cup, even if it has nothing in it. Always have it, so when somebody calls you into a meeting and they tell you something that's crazy, you just drink down your judgment and get on with your life. I won a trial. I got brought in. Oh, we want to put you up for partner. And I swear to God, I was like, oh, God, dear God, I could not think of spending 25 years left in my career doing the billables, fighting with opposing counsel, and doing all of that. So I went in-house, and I'm thrilled, and I'm happy, and it's the right place for me. So if you're a fifth, sixth, seventh, even eighth year associate, and you're considering whether you want to go in-house or be a partner, first and foremost, you keep your doors open. Do everything you need to make partner, because sometimes you end up in the really right firm and you're going to make partner there. But if you're miserable, you keep doing your work and then start networking. Network with everybody you know. Be very mindful that you need to network with people you can trust, because there's only a few of us in the industry and we all know each other. So be mindful about finding someone who can help you. Look at your resume. When you're going in-house, it's all about the results. Don't tell me you took depositions. I want to know, did you take 5 or 100? Let me know if you're handling billables for somebody in-house. We're going to look to see, can you manage a budget? So if you're successfully helping to manage a client's budget, say that in your resumes. But reach out to HNBA, the Su Futuro group. There's a whole list of us. Plus, there's also the corporate counsel division that we're always trying to like get people to the dark side of going in-house. We're here to help you. So if you have questions about how to go in-house, ask them. But in the meantime, do everything you need to do to keep that partner trajectory open for you. You just never know when you're going to hit the jackpot in terms of getting to a firm that values you and you value them. Just like you never know if you're going to go in-house and it's going to be the most fantastic experience or not so much. But I just wanted to kind of balance that out. And pose the question to Michelle and Danielle, like, are there days you don't want to be a partner? Are you days you ever regretted making the decision? I don't know if you guys have talked about that, but I want to know.
Yeah, I'm happy to lead off. I mean, sure, there are certainly days where I'm like, why am I not at the spa like I thought I was going to be when I was going to be a partner? If you know me, you know I love spas. So yeah, there's some days where there's like the conflict. I became managing partner of an office at my prior firm at Littler, where Daniel is. And every year all the OMPs across, or OMSs, excuse me, at Littler would meet at Denver for like a 3-day thing. And it was my second child's kindergarten graduation, and I missed it. I had to miss it. And so like days like that, I'm like, eesh, or I'm scheduled to be in trial again. And this is going to be the 3rd time I'm going to be in trial during Halloween, which I love me a matching costume. And so like, if you know me, I love a family matching costume. And so those are the times where it does become tough, because there are late nights and I can't tell a client, X can't happen because I've got a trial. I'm at a big firm, right? And I have resources. And so for me, tapping into those resources more and more, and understanding that I've got to have like a number 2 or a number 3 for clients to be able to reach out, has really been the driver for me in terms of success in this, is knowing it's not all on me. Because I have some associates, sometimes when they start working with me, they're like, I'm like, I want you to know the client. I want my LAA knows my clients, because if they can't reach me, my LAA will make sure that they know that Michelle will be back, or we'll reach out and they will cover as much as they can. And so for me, that has helped in terms of making what I do, which is it's very time consuming, making it manageable so that I can be at all the things. Here's the other thing, is being able to be me where I am has been such a value add. I will share with you that I have children. Sometimes I will talk to you on the soccer field or on the track field, and that's okay. And I have clients who are calling me, taking their kids to like ballet lessons or theater lessons, because those are the relationships and the clients that I have and I value, and that value me. And I think that that's also part of the importance of being able to integrate this into the work and the life that I have. So more spa days for me.
I guess the question is days I'm like, why did I become a partner? Um, Usually for me, that question always comes at the start of the new month after invoices have been run for the prior month. And I look at the amount of pages of invoices that I have to review, and it's always exceeding 600 pages. And I'm going, give way a sip. I am like, oh my gosh, this is going to take up a huge amount of time. And of course, you still have to complete your legal work, during the week. And there's always a tight turnaround for the returning of the draft invoices. And so that question always pops into my mind then for sure. And of course, it's just like anybody else in the legal profession. It's when your professional life conflicts with your personal life that these questions usually arise. Because at base, every single one of us as humans, right, are devoted specifically to our families. Our families are always number one, right? And when there is a personal and professional conflict with our personal lives, that question is always going to bubble up. Because at the end of the day, we are human, right? And we want to be there for our children. We want to be there for our partners. We want to be there and be part of our family. And especially as Latinos, I mean, family is everything, right? They are our number one, no matter what. And so the tricky part about being a partner A and B being an attorney overall is just being able is what works for me. How do I balance everything, and how can I be successful in my professional and personal lives? And when you've come up with the answer for that, let me know. Call me, call Michelle. We'll be happy to hear and listen to anything you've got. But in actuality, it's a never-ending struggle. And I think at the end of the day, it's when you find your passion, you'll be able to seamlessly move between the two. But it is still always a struggle. And I don't believe anyone who tells you, "Oh, it's the easiest thing in the world." It's not. It never is. It never will be. But we do it. We still do it because we love our families, and we still love the passion and fire in the law. Griselle, I don't know if you were here when I said it, but I came to practice law for the drama, and I believe it. It's still there. It's still coming. It's all around us. So,
well, and just to add to Daniel's point, I think for me, and even kind of to bring this where Grisel was talking about, I think the recognition that that's the beauty of a legal career is that you can shift. Like, you don't have to stay at the same firm, or you can stay at the same firm, or you can go and then come back and then leave and then come back again. Like, that's the amazing thing about the profession. You can go in-house. I promise you, the firm will roll out the red carpet if you ever want to come back. A lot of people don't come back from going in-house, right? But I think that that's also the beauty of this career. And for me, that switch was really important. Understanding that, like, yes, this is incredible right now, but like 5 years from now, who knows, right? Like, I get to choose, which is such an incredible thing. And I think that the point of you're like the ultimate free agent in terms of what you do. So just be really good at what you do, know the business of wherever you are. And just like again, remember, at the core of it, you're a human. And so be kind to yourself in whatever decision you decide to make.
Griselle, I'll let you take the lead.
I can't see the question, so if there's any other questions pending.
There aren't any pending. I can always come up with more, but if
yeah, we have a couple more minutes. So if there are any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A. I just wanted a special shout out to Danny from our firm. She's a healthcare senior associate in our Miami office. She's sitting for like the healthcare certification in Miami next week, and she graciously jumped in to help facilitate this conversation. So, thanks, Danny.
Thank you
for putting this together. And Griselle and team, like, thank you for letting me like have an hour with my buddy Daniel and with Griselle. Like, this is just great. This is like, we should just have our cup of coffee and do this.
Agree 100%, Michelle. I mean, thanks to everybody. And then, like, yeah, if anyone wants to hang out afterwards, I mean, just call me.
Call us. Exactly.
We'll restart the Zoom.
And now y'all see why they're my friends. As we're wrapping up, what would you say, if you could think of it? And I know this wasn't something we asked you ahead of time, but what would you say is like a defining moment in your career for you? Like the one moment where you're like, okay, whether that's good or bad. So like I shared that, as soon as they said they were going to make me partner, I panicked, and knew that was a defining moment for me. I got to go. That was the I got to go moment. But is there a defining moment for Danielle, even for you, as Michelle and Daniel might be thinking about it?
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't. That's hard to think
prepared.
of. I know. I'm trying to think of. I mean, I guess for me, I didn't start always in a law firm, and so I was in-house before. And it's funny because all my friends, when I was saying I wanted to go to a law firm, they said I was crazy, and they said you're already in-house. Like you got to where people want to end up, so why would you go back? But I knew from a long time ago I wanted to go to Ackerman because I knew people in the healthcare group. I knew they were really nice, and I felt like I would be happy doing what I liked doing, which was health law with people that were nice. And so it was always, for some reason, I just wanted to work at Ackerman, but I didn't have the background. And that's what I got from the in-house skills that I did with a purpose to one day get to come to Ackerman. And so I think for me was the defining moment was maybe, I think the third time I applied to Ackerman and got hired. So
very good.
That was, and I'm now living, I've been here 4 years. So far so good, but I guess my defining moment was getting to come back and kind of deciding or getting to come and knowing that that's something I wanted to do from a while ago. So
that's fantastic. So you got 2 partners, 2 refugees on the cross end, and
yes.
Valerie, who I'm making sure is going to become partner. Daniel, what was your defining moment?
I was barely a year into the practice of law, and I got to cross-examine somebody. That was the defining moment because that, for me, brought it home. Why did I want to become a lawyer? It was for the drama. And the cross-examination, I thought was, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was being handed the opportunity to do this, and it was in the context of a preliminary injunction hearing. And so as a barely first-year attorney, handling the preliminary injunction hearing and being able to cross-examine a witness, while a judge is, literally right there, was just brought it home. Like, this is why I became a lawyer. This is what I wanted to do. This is why I'm going to continue to do it and why I love doing what I do. And anytime like I feel like a little bit, dejected about the practice of law, I mean, I think about those moments, right? Because there were several of those moments. My first cross-examination of a witness, my first full jury trial, your first full arbitration. There's always a series of firsts that, that fire comes back. Anytime you get to match wits with somebody, at a deposition or at oral argument, right? The passion and the fire is there. And so those are daily constant reminder, well, daily, but they're constant reminders about why I love what I do. And so the first defining moment was that first cross-examination. But Grisel, to answer your question truthfully and honestly, every time I get in a situation like that, it becomes another defining moment and a reaffirmation about why I do what I do.
Nice. Miche?
Yeah, I think I've got 2. One, finishing a jury trial in the Southern District of California. I always tell associates or partners, remember or listen to how you feel after those big moments of a trial or a messy whatever it may be, because that's so important and so telling in terms of what are you doing what you're passionate about. And I remember that feeling after a jury trial of like, I love this, put me in again, coach, right? And that's why I love what I do. Second defining moment, not as great when I was told when I was looking at partnership that I needed to do more on a certain thing. And I remember thinking, wait, I've done all the things and then some. Like, and it was that moment of, do I really want this? And really making sure that I did really want this. And that is to my point of like making sure you understand all the levers in your organization, that you're not just putting your head down and working and yes, may I have another, sir, right? Or ma'am, that you are actually looking at how does this look for me long term in terms of success. So I would say those are kind of two critical defining moments for me.
Thank you. So I see we're on time. Thank you everybody for participating. If you have questions, reach out to HNBA. President@HNBA.com, because otherwise it's like too many words. Gracias, everybody. Gracias, gracias, gracias.
Bye,
Ciao.
friends. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.